Welcome back to another Scottish vlog adventure. This time, rented a camper van. We're heading back up towards the Isle of Skye. It's been a long day of driving, but just before sunset, decided to pull over at this loch. I don't know what the name is. I've just been following Google Maps towards Skye. I'll put it up on the screen. And I've got the 24 to 70 and the 100 to 400 out. And I'm just catching the last of the day's sun setting over this beautiful loch. It looks like a great viewpoint. Hopefully, I'm going to get some nice glowy photos. Let's see. So I'm bracketing here, ±2, f8. I've got ISO 200, let's go 100. It's on a tripod. Ooh. Just look at that. Beautiful Scottish sunset. I decided to go for a vertical version of the photos I was taking at this loch. And this photo was okay, but I did struggle a little bit with the high dynamic range of the scene. There's some nice colours in this composition, and the loch sort of leads you into the background and you get that sense of depth and a little bit of atmosphere with the lovely light. But I did overexpose the sun even with bracketing, and I could have closed the aperture more for some sun stars. After we left that loch, we went to another one called Loch Duich, where we camped for the night. And as we pulled up, we saw this beautiful moonrise, and I had to get a photo. The sun is not far off coming up now, which is great. I've got my camera set up and ready to go. The sun comes up at 6:30 here, so let's say 6:30. I got out of the van down there at around about 6:10. And I just missed that beautiful magenta hue across the really high clouds. Now, I can see that magenta hue now coming at about 6:25, just on the very low cloud, just above the mountain line at the back. But they're not within my my frame, they're just behind the mountain, so I'm going to miss that purple hue this morning. But hopefully the sun's just going to come up behind those mountains, start putting some sunbeams through. There's no mist, unfortunately, but while I wait for the sun to actually come up, I'm going to stick the long lens on and try and focus in on some of the details down in the loch. So it's a nice bridge just behind the camera basically, and there's a nice little river coming into the loch on that side. I'll just see what I can pick out with a long lens. I always like to bring a 100 to 400 with me doing landscape because A, it's great to go and pick out those bits of the landscape and just sort of get rid of all of the clutter around it and all of the noise and just have a nice minimal landscape shot zoomed right in. And B, because I'm lazy and I can't be bothered to walk anywhere, so I'll just zoom in instead. This is where I decided to take some minimalist photos as I was waiting for the sun to come up above the mountains. The time is now 7 a.m, almost. I've woken Kaz up. She's going to make a coffee. And as I predicted, because I'd already planned where the sun was going to rise from, I thought I might get some sunbeams. So, check that out. Let me turn the exposure down. Maybe you can't. All you can see is my face in the back of this camera. But I'm going to switch to video and record on my camera. And you should be able to see the sunbeams starting to come through. I'm at 70mm cropped here, and just on the peaks, just up here, and maybe just coming down through this bit are some sunbeams. So hopefully I'll just get a few more of those over the next 10 minutes or so by the time my coffee arrives. Fingers crossed, it's going to light up the loch. I'd have loved some mist this morning, but beggars can't be choosers. As the sun came above the mountains, just as it rose, I closed up the aperture to f22 to get these beautiful sun stars alongside the rays coming through the valley on the left-hand side, just lighting up the middle of the loch where the bridge was. It was incredible. And then a little bit later on in the morning, I took this second shot. I decided to go a little bit more Instagram and get some blurry foreground, so I opened up the aperture a little, went down close to the ground to get some blurry bokeh in the grass, and took this one. It was then time to leave the car park and drive towards a waterfall that I went to on my first trip to the Isle of Skye. However, we did stop at Eileen Dornee Castle on the way and took a couple of snaps while we were looking for an actual toilet to go to. Back at the waterfall. Here it is. Been a while. So we've just booked a ferry to go over to Harris that's leaving this evening. So sunset tonight will be from the ferry. But for now, we're just making our way up through Skye. As we're driving through Skye, just popping to some old haunts from the last trip. And I'm gonna get my ND filters out and try and put into practice some of the skills I learned while I was doing seascapes about shutter speeds with water. Just do a bit of practice, because hopefully going to be doing some seascapes while I am on the Isle of Harris in the Outer Hebrides. It's going to have fun in the afternoon sun. Last time I was here, I made the mistake of using shutter speeds which were too long, losing the texture in the waterfalls. There wasn't that much water compared to last time, but I decided to do a high contrast black and white photo due to it being the middle of the day and the light not being perfect. After we left the waterfall, we made our way up to the ferry and the long drive up to Luskentyre Beach. It was late when we arrived, so we decided to just have some dinner and wait until the morning to go and take some more photos. So, after staying near Eileen Dornee Castle the night before last, I'm trying to get out of the wind here. We decided to jump on the ferry on Saturday because it was either a Saturday ferry and then come back Wednesday, or spend like less than 24 hours on Harris. So we're on Harris, and I've got to Luskentyre Beach in about an hour's time. Nigel Danson will release the first of his 3 videos of this location where he spent a month here. He must be a bit windswept because today it is incredibly windy, but I just thought it looked incredible and I wanted to come and taste some of this landscape for myself. And it is. The tide's coming in at the moment. We're meant to get proper winds a bit later today, but I might spend a couple of days down here exploring the beach, exploring the area, and just enjoying life a little. So just to give you an idea of what Luskentyre Beach is like, we've got all of these big sand dunes at the back, these beautiful grass reeds. I'll just walk forward a bit, take you through the dunes down towards the beach. Now this beach is going to get quite big when the tide is out, when the tide's on its way in. You've got the mountains of Harris behind, an island I can't remember the name of there, and the beach stretches round and goes round the corner. It's like an L-shaped beach. I'm really trying to speak directly into the microphone here because of the incredible amount of wind. So hopefully the audio's okay. So what am I doing here? Well, I've got a foreground in my composition of the grass reeds, and I want to get them moving a bit and pointing towards into the frame. Then at some points I'll have the beach in there as well, maybe with some leading lines. Obviously my background is all of the lovely mountains in the background there. So the compositions here are plentiful. The conditions, a bit grey and very windy at the moment. And in terms of settings, well, low ISO, and I've got a 6-stop ND filter on. Give me about half a second worth of shutter speed. F13, hopefully everything in frame is going to be in focus. And maybe then just try and catch the waves. You get a real sense of the wind here with the movement in the grass. I think half a second shutter speed worked really well. I also managed to get the grass pointing into the frame, leading you into the background. However, with the tide so far in, I didn't catch the sea. It would have been nice to also see some waves. So, I walked further up towards Tarrensay to take this next photo, catching some waves and the wind blowing back the spray, although I should have been more aware of the bottom left-hand corner, which is a little bit distracting. To finish off the afternoon, I spent some time up at Windy Point, the elbow of the beach if you will, obviously with a flask of coffee. The wind was providing some great atmosphere, here in this view over to a farmhouse on the southern tip of Tarrensay. Also managing to catch some wildlife. Arctic terns maybe? No ornithologist. But when the clouds really rolled back in, I got these two very moody, cold-toned and desaturated shots. I really like these. It's a stark contrast to the blue sky and golden beaches that you usually see from beach photography. Day 2 at Luskentyre Beach. Well, last night and most of yesterday was a complete washout as it was gale force winds and driving rain for most of the day and night. After I took my last video, the sun went in, everything went flat, and then the horrible weather came in. And then all last night, the camper van was rocking, not in a good way, from the gale force winds, so hardly any sleep. But now it's 7:30, a little bit after sunrise, as I woke up for sunrise and there was complete cloud, so there wouldn't be much point of coming down, getting the same photos as yesterday. But now the weather is starting to clear a bit. It's more scattered cloud, and you can finally start seeing the low cloud that's hitting the top of the mountains in the background. So I might be able to get something a little bit different, a little bit more moody than just a flat grey sky. So as it turns out, I am still waiting for the sun to come out 20 to 30 minutes later than when I walk down here. But there's some big cumulonimbus clouds. I think that's what they're called. I didn't do GCSE geography, which is completely different to yesterday where it was just sheet high cloud just completely boxing everything off. And this is what really makes a nice moody shot. This is kind of what you want when you want storm clouds. I want the sun to start lighting up some of the clouds over here, but as you can see there, the sun's behind me and it's coming across and it's going, not quite lighting up over there or lighting up any of my foreground yet. So in the meantime, I'm going to have a breakfast bar and start playing about with some compositions with my 20mm lens to try and get a shot where I'm stood in it to try and give a bit of perspective of size. Now, if I flip you round, I wonder if you can see that. What I want to do is try and get me sort of in, just standing on the edge here, but when I'm stood there, I'm not overlapping this very dark bit of land. So I'm isolated against the background of the sea. So I am going to run around with a shutter on and see if I can find a good position for me to stand while I'm waiting for the sun. Okay, so failed first time, got it second time. Let me see if I can show you. It might be better for me to show you the photos after the fact, but first, you can see my head's cut off by the land here. Didn't quite get it right, so I thought, let's go in this little dip. And boom, I'm in. Didn't quite get the horizon line straight, but I can fix that in post. And yeah, I've done myself a little pose. Like I just said, it was really important that I didn't get lost against the dark background and maintain that contrast as a focal point to draw the eye into the scene. I'm also facing into the photo, which helps then lead you into the rest of the landscape. I had to stand pretty still because I was using an ND filter to slow the shutter speed because I wanted to capture some movement in the waves. My only concern with this image, looking at it in retrospect, is the balance. Me, as the focal point and big dark blob of land, are visually heavy, albeit there is the very bright sky. The left-hand side is pretty empty, which means the visual weight of the composition is leaning very heavily towards the right. So it didn't take long, and this is the state of play at the moment. Camera under my bag rain cover, my bag getting extremely wet, and a lovely bit of rain. Good thing was, got some really moody sky with some nice light just coming through the back of the clouds over there. And I literally had it for like 2 or 3 minutes before the rain cloud that was causing all of that actually came overhead. So I might go back to the van now and dry off and have a cup of tea. Maybe wait for the conditions to lighten up a little. But without having any actual nice sun on the reeds up here, I decided to come down on the beach, shoot some half-a-second shutter speed, long exposures of the waves with the mountains in the background, just trying to get a moody shot with a bit of texture in the foreground. Don't know if it'll work because the light wasn't amazing until a few seconds before this god-awful storm. Right, let's pick this up and go. Honestly, I didn't even bring my waterproof jacket. I've just got the down jacket on. What a fool! If you're gonna come to the outdoors, be prepared. Whilst it was pretty miserable, I decided to get the 100 to 400 out and experiment with some fast shutter speeds and the waves. I also just did a little bit of experimentation with shutter speeds, having a look at what textures I could get from the tide coming in. Okay, cup of tea's gonna have to wait. I didn't even get to the end of the beach before the rain stopped. And the rain is now over there. So I cannot see anything around those mountains anymore because they are covered in that rainstorm. But look at this! The sun's just about to come out. So it's like, okay. So I did a loop back up on top of the dunes and I've come back down here. Now, hopefully, get a little bit of light on these grasses here. They are beautiful. And the colour of them as well, it's like a straw yellow with a little bit of green in it. And the sea has got this turquoise hue to it as it comes into the shallows. And it's that sort of colour profile that I'm looking to get in the photos. I don't want to oversaturate it too much when I do the edits, but I want to get this nice interplay between that turquoisey and this straw yellow. But this is the most light I've had all day. Let's go. Finally, the skies lit up. I had a little bit of light on the foreground and I could have a play about with some more compositions. Then, after heading back to the van for lunch, I decided to head out and explore more of Harris. You see quite far. I finally plucked up the courage to traverse the sludge at the bottom of this salt flats, as I'd seen an amazing potential composition. There are some lovely compositions to be had on the salt plains, which is right on the south of the main island going towards the ferry, which is where I am now. But as you might be able to see, my little hobbit feet are out because I've had to wade through to get across to this composition. And look at that lovely S-bend there, leading towards the mountain in the background. Now, the conditions aren't amazing,
but it's finally stopped raining, and I thought, you know what, it's time to go and take some photos, because just be sat in the van all day waiting for the rain to stop. But I have a feeling on the right day this could be one epic shot. So simple leading line S-bend with the grass all going through, and yeah, main subject at the back. Now you can't see that.
I did struggle to bring anything out of this photo. It was so flat. It was windy as well. As you can see, all of the ripples are very distracting in the water in the distance. On the right conditions, on the right day, nice and calm, that will be absolutely beautiful.
Okay, so now I've warmed my feet back up. We've driven just back up the road north a little and stopped at this lovely little links golf course. And again, what I've got is these beautiful grass. Sorry for the accent, I don't know why I did that. But the beautiful grass, lovely colours. This beach that's curving round there, finally a bit of light and texture in the sky. Some houses on the left, some mountains. So I'm just exploring some compositions using the grass as a foreground coming towards you, and then this beautiful backdrop of the beach with the mountains either side. And the sun is just peeking through, so I'm going to go take some photos and then show you what I get.
Moody but not windy, I love the reeds leading into the landscape. The repetition of swoops, that's a technical term by the way, in the foreground and the background, with a little bit of beach in the centre, balanced by the sea and houses either side.
It's time to let my hair go wild in the sun. Oh yes. 6-stop ND filter, Summit Stop Grad for the Sky Soft Grad. I'm using K&F filters, the magnetic ones. They're pretty good actually. And just check out this view. We've got a nice foreground with some grass leading up to the beach, some people on the beach, sun's coming out, backlighting the waves. Everything is just coming together right now. And I'm shooting currently at 20mm, but I have had the 24-70 and the 100-400 on. Sorry if the audio is crap, because I left my microphone in the car and the sea is quite loud. So hopefully you can hear me. But I'm going to go and make the most of probably what is another 30 seconds of sun.
It was so nice to catch some afternoon sun, backlighting the grass and the waves. Between the showers, some people decided to take a stroll along the beach, which really helps put into context the scale of this beautiful landscape. I also wanted to take advantage of their footsteps as well in this more abstract minimal photo, using a longer shutter speed to texturize the sea with those footprints going across the bottom. It's simple, yet tells a nice story.
So we've decided to stay at Luskentyre Beach again, next to where there's some toilet facilities and water, which is great. And it's about 45 minutes, an hour till sunset, and I've just come from that golf course where the sun was peeking through, finally, and gave me some moody sky. And I thought, well, let's get back to the beach. Let's see if I can finally get a nice shot, bit of sun, bit of texture in the sky. And well, not sure if you can see or hear, it's just started raining again. So I'm rushing down to the beach, trying to get back into one of the nice spots I found earlier. Let's see. It's looking nice, but there is a big black cloud which might just block the whole sunset. Bit of a shame. But seeing as I've got some extra texture in the sky, I'm going to take some more photos nonetheless, because everything else I've taken so far has just been grey, pretty much nothingness. What I was talking about the other day was the cumulonimbus clouds. Sounds like it's Harry Potter or something. The cumulonimbus 3000 clouds, which look fantastic. You know, great atmosphere, especially when they're just touching top of some of these mountains, like over there at the moment. And then if I pan around, it looks like you can see some rain being backlit. So, right, time to set up and take some photos. And that, as they say, is that. The light has now just about gone. But you know what they say? Shoot until all the light is gone. I don't know if that's what they say, that's what I say. But it was finally just lit up, the sky lit up just a little, just enough to take some nice photos. Behind me over there, the mountains. The clouds are just concealing the tops of those mountains. So what did I do here? I tried to get some nice foreground with all of the grass here in the dunes. And I also put on some ND filters, went down by the shore and tried to get some wave streaks, which has resulted in me getting wet feet. And when I get back to the van, I'm sure Kaz will have something to say about that. Brand new shoes, already ruined. Not ruined, they should be fine. I think I've got some good photos and you're about to see them, but I've got to get home and edit them first.
I spent a long time with my feet in the oncoming waves, constantly adjusting settings as the light faded, waiting for that perfect wave, trying to catch it at the right moment, either when it's rushing in or when it starts to flow back out. This particular wave created some amazing sweeping leading pattern into the frame. Unfortunately, the sky wasn't amazing, but good enough for this moody shot. I also have been trying out some intentional camera movement. Using a slow shutter and moving the camera while it's open can create some amazing effects. And here's one such photo. Abstract and minimal with superb colours. I love it.
I'm not going to record too much this morning because this thing's going to run out of battery. Well, I've been down on Luskentyre Beach for 2 hours now. Mostly just standing here in the rain, waiting for it to clear up a bit, and it has just started to. And it's beautiful. Finally, in the background, some of the North Harris Mountains. The peaks are coming into view and they've got snow on. I'm catching the tide just at the right time as well now, so I'm doing some long exposure with the waves coming in and giving me some nice leading lines or lines that run through the frame. Also, there's this black sand. I'm not sure if you can see it, but this black sand, when it's right at the shoreline, is just creates these lovely lines. So this gimbal's not doing very well this morning, probably the rain. These black lines in the sand just create these lovely leading lines. So I'm doing something like I did at Ruberg Nuudveer, where I had the sand ripples and the dunes as a leading line up to that lighthouse. I'm going to try and use these black lines to lead up into those snowy mountains. Or if I swing around where the sun's actually just coming out over the sea, over there, looking west. And you can see it's just lighting up nice now. So fingers crossed I can spend a little bit more time down here before I go back for a cup of tea. And I'm going to show you the photos of my very early third morning at Luskentyre Beach.
The day started off with a wander around the tops of the dunes around Windy Point. This shot being in the pre-dawn hours, the bottoms of the clouds just starting to light up from the sun below the horizon. Then later on in the morning, I'm back at the shoreline playing around with ND filters again. Finally got awesome stormy sky with Tarrantay on the left and the waves just lighting up in the morning sun. I really like the sky on this shot. Then, the leading lines of black sand. Looking west, I got low to the ground with a wide angle, catching the leading lines and reflections from the wet sand in between the waves covering them up. Lastly, I attempted to look down at the details on the beach, catching some shells in the wash, just some minimal macro photography in the morning light. That's all for this video, but it only covers half of my road trip. if you enjoyed this, I'd really appreciate a like and subscribe, and you can get notified when part 2 is ready. I'll be travelling from Harris back down through the Isle of Skye, visiting the Crang, and finishing up chasing deer at the Bridge of Orkney. In the meantime, catch me on Instagram, and as always, happy snapping.